In early November 1943, the three Allied leaders Winston Churchill, Joseph Stalin, and Franklin Roosevelt announced that they would meet in Tehran later that month. It was meant to be the summit that finalized D-Day and shaped post-war Europe. But then, on November 12th, Adolf Hitler issued a public radio broadcast challenging the Big Three to bypass Tehran and meet him directly in Berlin. Roosevelt and Stalin immediately rejected the offer. Berlin was the capital of their sworn enemy during a total war, making it an obvious security and political trap. Churchill, however, believed that entering Berlin while the war still raged would cement the British Empire as the ultimate victor. He imagined himself outside the Reich Chancellery, cigar in hand, dictating terms to a defeated Hitler. He accepted at once. His ego triggered an immediate geopolitical crisis. In Moscow, Stalin's paranoia redlined. He became convinced Churchill was going to Berlin to sign a separate peace treaty with Germany, leaving the Soviet Union to be crushed by the Wehrmacht. Stalin agreed to go only to police the British and protect Soviet interests. Roosevelt, wheelchair-bound and physically failing, felt forced to follow. If he stayed away, the Grand Alliance might collapse before winter. To minimize military risk, the Allies demanded that no armies accompany them, only bringing one translator each. When they arrived at the Reich Chancellery, Hitler greeted the Allied leaders and led them and the translators into a tiny empty room with only 3 chairs and no windows. He then told them in broken English, "I hope you have a nice Berlin conference," and locked the door. The trap immediately weaponized their psychology. Because Roosevelt's wheelchair served as his seat, only one chair remained empty. In wartime optics, standing while a rival sat implied submission. Stalin and Churchill silently took the remaining seats, forming a tense triangle of distrust. The translators, meanwhile, had to stand. Then the door opened again. Hitler walked in alone, holding a tray with 3 cups of tea and cookies, smiled with mocking politeness, and delivered a short phrase in heavily accented English for the gentleman. A British tradition. "Please, drink, relax, you look very tired." He turned, walked out, and locked the door again. The tea introduced a terrifying possibility: poison. Stalin viewed the cups as live grenades, convinced his portion was lethal. He suspected Churchill's cup was safe, while his and Roosevelt's were toxic. To prove his loyalty, Churchill offered to swap cups randomly or drink from Stalin's first. But trust was gone. The Big Three chose defiance. No one touched the tray. The tea and cookies sat there, growing cold, a monument to their mutual fear. Despite the discomfort of the cramped, unventilated space, Roosevelt raised his hand and spoke calmly. He pointed out the hidden microphones. Gentleman Roosevelt warned,
"Look at what he did. He spoke broken English to play on our weaknesses. If he wanted us dead, we would already be executed. If we turn on each other, Hitler wins without firing a shot."
The logic diffused Stalin's immediate anger. Hours later, Hitler made his final move. He entered the room again and presented Churchill with a personalized cocktail, a heavy mix of champagne, white wine, and brandy. In broken English, he said, "My alcohol knowledge is not very good, but I hope you enjoy it." It was a test of Churchill's dependence on alcohol under stress. Hitler, a fanatical teetotaler, wanted to see whether the Prime Minister would accept a drink from his captor to calm his nerves. To Stalin, the cocktail looked like a victory toast for a secret Anglo-German peace. But Churchill found his footing. He knew his response would either confirm Stalin's suspicions or save the alliance. Looking Hitler in the eye, he said clearly,
"Your mixture, Herr Hitler, is just like your foreign policy. Crude, poorly blended, and bound to leave a terrible headache. I only drink to the health of a Free Europe's, so I shall not be drinking with you.
Churchill set the glass beside the cold tea and stale cookies. Roosevelt laughed and told Stalin, "You see, Joseph, there is no secret treaty here." For the first time that day, Stalin gave a grim nod of respect. By rejecting the bait, the Big Three became a silent wall of defiance. Then came the most baffling twist of the war. An hour later, the iron doors opened for the last time. Hitler brought no execution squad and demanded no surrender. He simply let them out of the room and walked them to their cars. As the doors closed, he smiled and said, "I hope you had a productive meeting." Hitler's mercy was his most lethal weapon. By releasing them unharmed after hours of psychological torture, he infected the Grand Alliance with suspicion. As they drove toward the airport under Nazi escort, silence suffocated the car. Stalin left Berlin convinced a secret deal had been made and that Hitler had released them because Britain had given him something. Back in Moscow, he ordered the Red Army to prepare for a future war against the West, accelerating the Cold War by years. Churchill returned to London in regret, knowing his ego had damaged the alliance and Britain's relationship with the United States. When Allied forces liberated Berlin in 1945, Soviet troops found that same tiny room in the Reich Chancellery. On the floor sat the original silver tray. The tea had dried into a dark crust, the cookies had rotted, and the cocktail had evaporated into a sticky residue. Chemical analysis performed on the cups in 1990 revealed the truth: there had been no poison. The tea was perfectly safe. Hitler had tricked them. The tea was not the poison. Their fear was. The Allies won the military war, but the phantom of that empty room ensured that the peace that followed would be defined by 40 years of bitter Cold War paranoia.